Lesson 12.1, three-dimensional figures. So this is just a general lesson talking about the difference between three-dimensional figures, and we're starting with the prism. What a prism is, it has two identical bases that are parallel with each other, and the lateral faces, which are the sides, lateral means sides, those are always rectangles, okay?
Mrs. Walter.
So the sides are called lateral faces, and those are always rectangles. The prisms always have two bases that can be any shape. They can be a triangle, they can be some kind of quadrilateral, a square, rectangle, whatever. This one happens to be a pentagon. So since the bases are pentagons, then that means that it is called a pentagonal prism. They are named by their bases. So if there's triangles that are the bases, it's a triangular prism, and that might be something you actually see in science class. Pentagonal prisms, you could have a square prism, a rectangular prism, an octagonal prism. If it was an octagonal prism, what would the bases be? Octagons. So those are prisms. Just remember the lateral sides are rectangles. The two identical sides are your bases. All right, something else about these shapes that we need to talk about. You have flat surfaces, so you probably want to write this down. Flat surfaces are faces. Where the faces meet, those are called edges. Okay? So the edges are the lines that you draw to draw the shape, but they are edges because the two flat surfaces meet there. Those are the edges. And then where the edges meet, those are the vertices. So that's how it's named. It's the actual points. So in this prism, the top face has the vertices A, B, C, D, E. How many edges does the top face have? 5. Because it's a pentagon, there's 5. How many edges are in that entire shape? How many edges in that entire shape? 15. Tell me where you get 15. 5 times 3, because there's 5 around the top base, there's 5 around the bottom base, and then there's 5 vertical ones around the lateral faces. So there are 15 faces. How many vertices are in this pentagonal prism? How many vertices are there? 10. There's 5 up at the top and 5 at the bottom. How many faces are in that prism? 7. There's a base at the top and a base at the bottom. That's 2. And then there are 5 lateral faces around that thing. So there's 7 total faces in a pentagonal prism. Does anybody have any questions about a prism? It's named by its bases. It has faces, edges, and vertices. All right, we're going to move on to talk about pyramids. Pyramids are next three-dimensional figure. Okay, sort of like the prism. A pyramid is named by its base. The main difference is the pyramid only has one base. It has a flat surface at the bottom, and from each of those vertices at the bottom, there are edges that go up to meet at one main vertex. So there's one main vertex, but there's other vertices which are at the corners of the base. This shape has a pentagon for a base, so we call it a pentagonal pyramid. But you could call it based on different shapes. It could be a triangular pyramid, a square pyramid, a rectangular pyramid, and so on, just like the prisms. The base is the one surface. All of the sides go up to meet at one main vertex. That forms lateral faces. They call it a lateral surface, but the lateral faces are always triangles. The lateral faces are always triangles. So one base and then all of those triangular sides. In this shape, it's a pentagonal pyramid. How many faces does that pentagonal pyramid have? 6. 5 triangular faces and 1 pentagon base, so total of 6. How many edges does this pentagonal pyramid have?
3.
More than 3. There's 5 along the bottom.
6.
Well, hang on. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 along the bottom, but then look at these that go up here. Those are all as well. So there are 10. There are 10 edges, 10 lines that you would actually draw if you had to draw that, or you had it sitting here, you would count 10 edges. Okay, what about vertices? How many total vertices are there in this shape? 6. Because there's one vertex at each corner of the base, and then the main vertex that all of the edges are going up to, so 6. Okay, other three-dimensional figures include a cylinder, a cone, and a sphere. A cylinder is comparable to a prism because it has 2 bases, but the main difference is for a cylinder, the bases always have to be circles. So the circles are the bases. The lateral surface is this side. So if you were carrying a can of green beans, what you normally would hold when you're carrying it is the lateral surface. And it's circular. If you cut up the side of that and opened it up, do you know what that shape would open up to be? A rectangle. Sure. It'd be like taking a piece of paper and rolling it up. That piece of paper would be your lateral surface, and it would be the rectangle. A cone is comparable to a pyramid because it has one main vertex, it has one base, and then the lateral surface is around. So like if you were holding this as an ice cream cone, what you would hold would be the lateral surface. Okay? One main vertex and one base. The base always has to be a circle. Now, one thing about it, a cone can have a vertex, but cylinders and cones don't really have, they really don't have, well, I guess they do have faces. Some faces. The bases would be considered faces, but they aren't like you would name them like triangles or rectangles or anything like that. Okay? And then finally, the last thing is a sphere. So the only thing that, bless you, the only thing that I can tell you about the sphere, so if I'm going to draw one right here so you can see. The only thing that I can tell you about the sphere is you've got the center point, and you would be told either about the radius or possibly about the diameter, but there's really not a whole lot else we can talk about a sphere. Are there any questions about those?